I'll start with my formal greeting. Good morning to our friends in North and South America. Good afternoon to our friends in the UK and Europe. Good late afternoon to our friends in the Arab states. Good evening to our friends in India, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore. Good late evening to our friends in Australia. Hope you are all well. Good to see you. It's been a while. I've been in India and Nepal. We're going to have some pictures. I'll share some pictures just as something of a preface, because what we were doing was somewhat, I would say, slightly epic in a way. Intense meditation retreat, myself and some other monks and nuns, and then traveling over India to traditional holy sites and meditating many different places, and even spending a couple of nights in the Himalayas and then to the Kathmandu Valley. We covered a lot of terrain, and we studied many subjects, and we did a lot of practice. Necessarily because of the theme and because of the distance journey, the multifaceted aspect of such a journey, pilgrimage and intensive practice, my reflection will be somewhat meandering. And you may find that some of what I say is relevant, some is not. That's okay. So just try to listen with meditate while the monk talks. It might be a bit like, listening to an old CD of an artist that you like. Some verses you like, some verses you don't like. You like that chorus, you're not that into that chorus, but you kind of appreciate that artist, and sit back and listen, enjoy the verses that you resonate with, the choruses that you can sing along with. You can sing along with those. The bits that don't mean much to you, you can leave them aside, but we just keep listening. One of the words, the Savaka Sangha, is those who give ear, those who listen. And some of what I say, hopefully, will also have relevance to lay people's practice. And also for those of you who may never go on a pilgrimage, it's a way to join in on the journey, and have mudita for the people who did join in, and understand some of the qualities we develop, subjects we study whilst on pilgrimage. And sometimes there are ways we can integrate that into our lay life wherever you are, or your lay life wherever you are. And so shall we begin? JC, you've got a whole bunch of photographs ready to go. As my regular students and listeners will be aware, I've been plodding away, working on a meditation vow that I have to offer in loving respect and gratitude towards the Buddha, 5,000 hours of formal practice at the Bodhi tree, the seat of enlightenment, something that I've been working on for about 20 years, I guess. And I like to bring some other monks and nuns along. So a good number of us spent a month in Bodh Gaya, and a few other monks joined us for the last 10 days of that month. What you can see behind us here is 3,000 flower garlands. So one of the things you can do in Bodh Gaya is you can sponsor the decoration of the compound, where professional flower arrangers tie these together and then drape them in beautiful patterns around the railings and entranceways, and it's very beautiful. So a lot of different people join in to offer flowers, and this is one way to do a grand offering. And you get the chance to go and sit among the flowers and make the offering, make the aspiration. So Lord Buddha did say in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta that one of the ways that people can show their respects at the 4 traditional holy sites that he recommended people with faith visit is one can offer colors, fragrances, chanting, He also said the best mode of showing respects is, of course, to do the practice, cultivating the mindfulness, the concentration, and the wisdom, studying Lord Buddha's life and teachings. But these devotional practices have a lovely way of opening the heart, brightening the heart, gladdening the heart. And it's also a gift to others when other people come into the compound in the afternoon and they see literally what's 3,000 by 50, 150,000 blossoms, beautiful colors, yellow, white, red, orange. A lot of people feel joy when they see that. And usually they leave it up for a couple of days. So a lot of people get to also rejoice. And so we did that, as well as meditating. I was meditating for 8.5 hours a day during this session. Actually, it was 3 sessions of 3 hours. I count it as 8.5 because sometimes, at least once, I'll have to get up and go to the toilet for an unscheduled pee break. And sometimes there's a little bit of chatting next to the monk or the nun or the layperson next to me. So I was sitting 3 sessions of 3 hours and counting it as 8.5 hours. One of the things, so this is the Mahabodhi Chedi, the site of enlightenment, where Lord Buddha received his 8 bundles of kusha grass after crossing the Naranjara River. I think we have a picture of the Naranjara River, or the banks of the Naranjara River, a couple of pictures away. Yeah, here we are. You can see the Mahabodhi Chedi is in the back here on the other side of the river. So this was when we were going to the austerity cave, but we can go back to that picture, Jesse, of the Mahabodhi temple. Just going to talk a little bit about intensive retreat, why monks do it, similarly to why it's recommended for lay people to do it. So in my daily life, I try to sit 4 or 5 times a day, plus a session of walking, session of chanting. That would be a regular commitment that I have. But since very young, from the very beginning actually, 4 days after becoming a novice at Wat Ba Nanachat, we walked off into the jungle area on the border of Burma, where we spent 3 months in the hot season. And one of my earlier mentors, Ajahn Kalyanu, who lives in Australia now, he said that even though you live in a good training monastery and have a good regular practice, it's important to take a period of time a year away from the monastery where you usually live and do some more intensive practice. So this is it's just an interesting something, another one of my commitments. I have many commitments, but this is something I'm committed to doing because we all, monk, nun, lay person, layman, lay woman, we all have our habits. We can get a bit stuck in them. And so and blind spots and ways of grasping. And so when you put yourself in a different situation and you practice more intensely, you can sometimes reflect on the way you've been practicing previously, set kind of resolutions for the way you want to practice afterwards. Sometimes just going away and practicing more than normal, it just tends to lend itself to developing more clarity. Review. These are the part of the 4 iddhipadas, this chanda, virya, chitta, vimamsa, having the aspiration to practice, putting forth the effort, cultivating these mental qualities, faculties, mindfulness, concentration. The last one is reviewing. How is it going? Is it working? And so uprooting ourselves from our usual life and practicing more intensely can give us insight into the way we've been living, give us a chance to make resolutions, things we'd like to change when we go back. And when we practice a lot and you get some good energy in the mind, you can set some resolutions and then you can kind of follow through on those resolutions because you've got the momentum, you've got the deep intention, you set the aspiration, come back and you can change your life. It's something I think very valuable for all practitioners. If we can take a period of retreat, sometimes we can combine pilgrimage with retreat. I often do. Let's talk a little bit more about the experience of doing more intensive practice. So when one meditates several times a day like I do, there should be, for a senior practicing monk, a fairly consistent quality of mindfulness, a capacity to contemplate one's mind states. And when you see them clearly, let go of what is unwholesome, etc. But when you do more intensive samatha practice, more intensive formal meditation, like longer sessions, more frequent sessions, many days in a row, then you start to experience more of these jhana factors, the piti and the sukha. So the rapture and tranquility. And it's very important to experience this sometimes, because the way we usually perceive the physical body, we're quite attached to it, and it feels heavy, and it's got lots of pains, and it's part of the human experience, of course. It's experiencing our body the way it is, the body. But when you sit longer, more frequently, more intensely, and also in a place which is somewhat spiritually charged, you can get long periods where there's quite a bit of tranquility. And so it's not uncommon. I just want to share a little bit of, what's it like being a monk? What's life like for a monk who meditates a lot? So one of the things you might experience, I often do, is if I need to walk to the bathroom, it's about a 5-minute walk, and you can feel like you're floating. The body is light, the mind is light. There's a sense of clarity, there's a sense of brightness in the mind, and you literally feel like you're floating, but you can feel the bottom of your footprints. And these qualities of tranquility continue in the mind, even though you're moving and even though you have your eyes open. And it's also an interesting way, because one has to cultivate the 4 Brahma Viharas as a support to cultivating mindfulness, because you need metta, you need compassion. And when you're practicing in a noisy, busy, crowded, sometimes dirty place, you also need equanimity, the 4th Brahma Vihara. And when there are inspiring practitioners and also uninspiring practitioners, you need to be able to keep the mind in the middle. Similarly, with when there's pleasant chanting and not nice sounding chanting, you get a lot of experience that if you grasp at the pleasant sounds, when the unpleasant chanting happens, there's aversion to that. You just get a lot of experience of learning to look at everybody with the same quality of impartial goodwill, listen to things with a knowing of sounds without liking or not liking too much. And it's a good chance, because when you live, as I do, among 5 or 6, currently there's 9 monks here, 2 nuns, but oftentimes I'm living with 5 monks, 2 nuns on 70 acres, and lots of birds, lots of trees, lots of cats, friendly villages. You don't get tested that much how you but when you drop yourself in the busiest, most intense Buddhist holy site, you are going to have some interesting creative challenges where you get to sharpen some of your skillful means. You have no choice, actually. If you're going to keep your mind in an equilibrium, you get to sharpen all sorts of skillful means. But it's not uncommon at the end of the evening to be walking back to the guest house and feel like one is floating the whole way. And of course, that's not every day. You might have struggled with some grumpiness, or it might have been a particularly unpleasant, noisy crowd, or oppressive weather, or something. And you can walk back and feel tired and grumpy. That also happens. But it's not uncommon for myself when practicing in Bodh Gaya, for the experience of the tranquility and serenity that oftentimes we might feel for 5 or 10 minutes in a formal meditation in our more ordinary life, for that experience to continue for periods of hours outside of the meditation. So, and then when that is the case, when you come to do the meditation again the next day, there's already some good energy, there's already some brightness. So you're not starting from zero, you're already starting with some energy in the mind. And then the chances of experiencing deeper samadhi and clearer insight begins to become more likely. So that's why we practice more intensely. Okay, next. My companions. So, Sampano, Suriko, Panyasiri, myself, Joel, Charin, and Yong, my bhikkhu companions. Next one is the nuns. Michi King, Michi Emily, Ashoka Kema and Israeli lay friend. Forgotten her name. Huh? Anat. I'm not good with names. I remember the story of, I remember people's stories and details, but I forget their names. Forgive me. So we went to, in this last 10 days, I begun to ease into a bit of pilgrimage activity because we knew that in a few days we would go from a group of about 10 to a group of 70. So to kind of ease that transition, we would go from quite a regular daily routine to movement and exposure to different energies and situations. So we did some local pilgrimage. So we went to the site where Lord Buddha practiced the austerities for 6 years, where it is said that you remember the life of the Buddha, the story of the life of the Buddha, that he was just taking like a half a palmful of rice, and his stomach skin touched his backbone, and his back skin touched his backbone, and his hair fell out of his body, and when he would go to urinate, he would fall over flat on his face. His eyes became like sunken wells, etc., etc. He said about this period of time that there may be some great yogi who experienced as much suffering as he did in his striving, but nobody ever suffered more. So that's an incredible statement of the sincerity and what the Bodhisattva endured in order to discover the escape hatch, the gate to the deathless. So when one goes there, for myself, I just feel a tremendous gratitude. And I think I used to feel a little bit intimidated going here. And I don't have that experience so much anymore. When one considers that one isn't capable of making anywhere near such a sincere effort of putting up with unpleasant feelings and having that much patience. But now when I go there, I just feel deep, deep gratitude and love and respect to the Bodhisattva who became the Buddha. So we go quite early in the morning because other groups come. This was the one time that no group actually came while we were sitting. We sat for about an hour and then we went to a side room and sat for another hour. And when we were coming down the hill, I think 5 groups had arrived at the same time, 5 busloads, and they were all walking up the hill at the same time. So on this morning in particular, we were quite fortunate. Interestingly, when we arrived, there were 4 Russian lay meditators meditating in the cave. So we were being so diligent to get there first, and we weren't first. 4 Russians were in the cave meditating silently. And it's an interesting thing to observe. Apparently, some of the great masters who I know in Thailand have mentioned that Buddhism will grow in Russia in the future. And one's beginning to see some of this, perhaps. We bumped into the same group at Nalanda University, the place of birth of Sariputra, a few days later. So we were happy to meditate outside. After meditating at the site of the austerity, as we recall, Lord Buddha wandered down after having his insight that the austerities wasn't working essentially. Patient endurance alone is not a door to the deathless. He recollected experiencing some samadhi under the rose apple tree as a youth, and considered that perhaps experiencing some samadhi combined with wise contemplation, focused, directed thought, may be a middle way approach. He had the insight that it was. He decided to take a bath to receive the sweet, creamy, to take a meal, and he wandered down. He sat under the goat's herd banyan tree, and it's interesting as there is a banyan tree here now, and it is said that the Bodhisattva / Buddha's body shines with a beautiful golden light on 2 occasions in his last birth. The first occasion is on the eve before the enlightenment, And the second occasion is when the Buddha has given up the life force and will attain to parinibbana without remainder. So he was sitting under the tree after his bath, radiating gold light, and there was a maiden who had wanted to make an offering to a tree deva, and her helpers, some milkmaids, ran to her. Lady Sujata, there's a tree deva sitting under the goat's head banyan tree, radiating gold light. And so she quickly made some lovely, sweet, creamy rice and went and offered it to the bodhisattva. So this was no ordinary tree deva. This was the soon-to-be Tathagata, knower of the worlds, teacher of gods and humans. So we went there, and it's very nice to contemplate the role that nourishment plays and kindness plays and generosity plays in the, no matter how heroic, no matter how tough, no matter how much patience, no matter how bitter that practice was, the bodhisattva still needed a kind person to offer him nutriment so that he could realize what he realized and go forth and help millions of beings. So it's nice to recollect here the importance of a little bit of tenderness and kindness, generosity. Yes, next day we traveled to Rajgir, and we went up to Vulture's Peak, the site where Lord Buddha used to go for retreat when he was in Rajgir sometimes. Vulture's Peak Mountain. On Vulture's Peak Mountain, there is a cave where Sariputta became enlightened while listening to a sermon being taught by the Buddha to a Brahmin named Diganaka, long fingernails. So we were able to do, it was interesting. We arrived there at 4 because I wanted to be there at sunset, and the guard at the bottom said, "You cannot go. This place closes at 5. You will not get up to the top and down to the bottom in time." So he said, "However, if you give 3,000 rupees, I'll let you go for an hour and I'll send a police escort for you." And I said to him, 3,000 rupees, 3 hours. And he said, "Okay." So, it's not so inspiring that I guess this is one of the ways the police force makes a bit of extra cash at the holy site. But sometimes, many years ago, I would have got upset about that, and I wouldn't have agreed that the steward hand over the bucks. But now I'm kind of like, okay, cool. We get it to ourselves. And we've come all this way. What's 3,000 rupees? And so the police got their tea money. The monks got to do their evening chanting in the cave where Sariputta became an arahant. We're also sitting on top the site of the Buddha's kuti. And is there that picture? Yeah, no, another one on the top. Okay, so we just got there. We just started sitting, and this large group of Sri Lankans turned up, and it was a bit depressing. Why was it depressing? Because they stood behind the Buddha statue, even though there were practice monks meditating in the Buddha's kuti, and they were all having photos of themselves with the Buddha statue, with the setting sun behind them, and we had the click of the camera behind us, and these crowds of Sri Lankans, every single person queuing up for their photo. Now, the frustrating thing about this is that this group of Sri Lankan people looked like the type of people who went to Sunday school, came from good families, had deep faith, and if you don't mind me saying it, smartphones have largely ruined them. So I was sitting there thinking, what are we going to do? How are we going to turn this into a holy occasion? So I thought, okay, let's chant some parittas. And it was very interesting. What happened was we started chanting some parittas, and these Sri Lankans then stood all around us, facing us with their hands in Anjali. And of course, they know the words. So they do it to a different melody, but they started mouthing the words of the Ratana Sutta, Mangala Sutta, Metta Sutta, and the whole atmosphere changed with people praying appropriate reverence rather than just taking a photo with a Buddha statue. And we were able to turn it into something of a holy occasion. And after that, we had our our nice evening chanting. I have a somewhat traumatic experience with the mala sellers. I think I made a mistake of being kind to some mala sellers when we went a few years ago, straight after COVID. There were mala sellers who'd not been able to sell their malas because of the lockdowns, etc. And I'd made a deal with them that they would be quiet. My small group would buy a mala from each of them. And instead of remember that act of kindness and pay double or triple or whatever, was instead of remember that kindness with some gratitude, they now reward me for my kindness by harassing me from the moment I step out of the van to the very top, and push me from behind, ostensibly helping me get up the hill. Like, I would like to mindfully walk up the hill, recollect that the Buddha used to walk, and have my own space. But they push me, and they tell me that I'm an important guru for them, and then they try to sell more malas, and it's a bit depressing, really. And but one has to work with conditions as they are. And we did get to meditate in the Buddha's kuti. We did get to have the evening chanting in Sariputta's, and I did observe something interesting, which I will mention. So, despite the Sri Lankan group was probably about 80 people, if I remember correctly, and the mala sellers, there were about 8 of them. So despite this sense of being touched, being pushed, being harassed, being impinged upon by selfie-taking tourists, that when I did meditate, during the chanting, my mind, I noticed that my mind became quite peaceful. And during the evening chanting in the Sariputta's cave once again, and this is where one sees the benefit of having done a month of intensive practice, that even though some irritation arose, I didn't yell at anybody. I didn't lose my patience. And when I inclined my mind to a wholesome meditation object, the mind did experience some rapture and some tranquility and some joy, some brightness. And, otherwise that experience could have been quite really unpleasant after a month of retreat. And it was, partly unpleasant, but I found that the mind was able to put it down, focus on why we came, and happy, of course, to open up and share that opportunity with my brothers and sisters. So we had a lovely evening chanting in the sight of Sariputta's enlightenment, and recollected Lord Buddha up there teaching the devas. Vulture's Peak is an interesting place. When there are quiet moments, one does feel close to heavens there, close to the heavens. And I asked Tanajananand why, when the place can be crowded, noisy, dusty, not that much spiritual practice may be occurring, and yet when we pay respects in this day and age, when we pay respects with a mind of faith in those places, the heart can feel very, very touched. Some people literally shed tears with the quality of rapture that they feel, and this quality of a combination of gratitude, love, respect, devotion, and that kind of realization that the Buddha really was born in this world. He really did practice and realize the middle way. He was enlightened. He did spread the teachings for 45 years. We have all of these beautiful teachings and practices that just making it really real. And so I asked Tanajananand why do so many people experience this refined rapture and joy and well-being even when it's crowded and noisy and dusty, and that not much practice is happening. And he said, well, when sincere pilgrims go, large numbers of devas come and rejoice and spread metta to the pilgrims. And so part of what one feels is the blessings of what occurred there from 2,500 years ago, but also beings in parallel subtle realms radiating loving kindness and mudita towards you. And he said sometimes many, many thousands. So that's part of why one can feel that bright sense of light, uplift, and still worth going, even though there are challenges. I must say the Veluvana is looking really nice now. The Archaeological Survey of India has done a really good job of planting beautiful gardens, maintaining them. And I went there many times, 15, 18 years ago. And it had a really rundown, sleazy, creepy vibe, actually, because it's kind of smack in the middle of Rajgir city, Rajgir town, which is in the past has been quite a rough place. Now that they really did plant all these bamboo and shrubs and trees and maintain it, and there's been so many thousands of Buddhist groups come through and do their chanting, you can feel the blessings. And I suspect Dave is living in the trees. And I never used to have a peaceful experience in Velavana, but now I nearly always do. It's a beautiful. This is the place, the first monastery offered to the Buddha by King Bimbisara, if you recall. It's also the place where Sariputta and Moggallana entered the bamboo grove, already stream enterers. The Buddha announced, "Here is a great pair. Here are my foremost disciples." And it's the place where Lord Buddha taught the Awada Patimokkha, the beginning of the laying down of the rules of discipline. Lord Buddha always talks about his own teachings as the Dharma and the discipline. You have the teaching, and then you have the discipline part. One has to be ethical, and one has to be consistent in one's practice to be a true follower of Lord Buddha. And here is where he laid down these principles. And we celebrate that on, what day is that? Magga Puja. So yes, lovely landscaping in the bamboo grove. This is the site where the Awada Patimokkha was taught. It's a lovely place to meditate quietly now. When you go to these holy sites, when groups come through, if it's a Theravadan group, most groups will chant the Awada Patimokkha. So it's like the theme song. Returning to my to my analogy, the kind of theme song of that place, or the theme chant, and it contains a certain vibration. These principles of non-harming, middle way, and delighting in seclusion, moderation. Lovely, just to sit to the side, and it's normally my style to do a little bit of chanting and a long sit. So we're often there as different groups come and go, and Ajanachala's group is still there. I like to do this because it increases the chances of the mind becoming peaceful. So sometimes you sit for the first half hour and there's some grumpiness or some sore muscles or restlessness. But if you sit and you sit and you sit, the mind at some point will likely become quite peaceful. And because these places are full of a special type of blessing, and as there may be devas rejoicing, then it becomes possible for people to experience these lovely qualities of passaddhi, tranquility, piti, rapture, and sometimes some one-pointedness, ekaggata. These are factors of jhana. We also went in the afternoon to the ancient site of Nalanda Monastic University. Nalanda was also the birthplace of Sariputta, the disciple foremost in wisdom. It's also the place where he attained Mahaparinibbana. You may recall the somewhat fun story of the mother having many children. Most of them were arahants by the end of Sariputta's life, sons and daughters. And Sariputta was foremost in wisdom. His mother had still not developed faith. So he realized that before he passes into final Nibbana, he should repay his debt of gratitude to his mother. So he went to let the body die in the bedroom, his bedroom. And apparently the kings of the Chatur Maharaja, the first heaven realm, came and paid respects. Sakadeva Raja, the emperor of heaven, of Dawatingsa, came and paid respects. Brahma Sahampati came and paid respects, and the mother had enough sensitivity and brightness and composure of mind that she was able to see this. And she finally developed some faith. She's like, if Brahma himself is paying respects to her son, then she went to chat with him. Son, what is this? What is this Dhamma you've discovered? And then he taught her, and she did attain to stream entry. And like a good mother should, she scolded him. Why didn't you teach me this much earlier, son? And of course, he tried many times, but but he fulfilled his duty, and there was one more Aryan in the world. So it's very nice to. Obviously, it was a place of incredible growth and development in Buddhism for many centuries. It also had a kind of a sad ending, with the library being burnt and much of the art being destroyed. So it's a very poignant place to go and meditate. Once again, we just went and sat for a couple of hours and consider Sariputta, consider some of the great, anyone who's studied the Mahayana, the Shantideva path for the Bodhisattva's life, Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life was composed here by Shantideva. Atisha, who went and spread Buddhism in Tibet, was one of the abbots here, I believe. And so it was a place of significance. Dharma spread from here to many places, Ladakh, Mongolia, Tibet, China, Korea, Japan, Vietnam, particularly the northern school. And Sariputta was born there. A little bit of the old sandstone, little bit of the sandstone and stucco carving still remain. There's a beautiful museum. We weren't able to go this time. It was being renovated, but there is a very nice museum where one can see how extraordinary the Buddhist art was at Nalanda back in the day. After this, we traveled to Sarnath, the site of the deer park where the wheel of Dharma was set in motion. We had about 5 days to practice in the deer park. Very nice to go here and just to be able to go morning and afternoon every day and soak up I don't know how other people experience it, but I know for myself, when I walk into the gates, I feel like streaming radiance hits me in the face. That's how I experience it. And it's in the middle of a somewhat bustling town, and a lot of groups come through and a lot of tourists come through. But it still has a very special sense of blessings in the air. And so wonderful to go there and to consider the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the consequences of Lord Buddha teaching for the human world and the other world. I'm wondering if I should tell you or not, but I think I will. One of the monks in this group, go back to that picture. I'm not going to tell you which one. One of the monks in this group was sitting meditation one afternoon, and he remembered being a deva in the time of the Buddha who attended the first sermon. And when we were studying the life of the Buddha, a few days later when I was in Lumbini and I was giving a reading, Asita the sage, at the time of the Bodhisattva's birth, Asita the sage was able to see that Dawatingsa Devas were celebrating. They were brandishing flags and singing songs. And Asita the sage asked them, why are you celebrating? What is this? What's all this commotion about? All this joy, all this celebration? And the Dawatingsa Devas told Asita the sage, the Bodhisattva has descended into the womb of Maya Gautami. He will set in motion the wheel of Dharma in the deer park. So that's interesting. It kind of confirms that the Devas knew. The Devas knew that the Buddha was going to teach the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. And to me, this makes sense, because the Bodhisattva has been cultivating for asankhya, imponderably long periods, plus 100,000 eons. What's he been teaching people? What's he been doing? He's been teaching people dana, generosity, sila, ethics, virtue, and mental cultivation. Even for the stubborn ones that were karmically connected to him, he comes back again, he comes back again, he comes back again, millions and millions and millions of times. Even the stubborn ones are finally going to get it. And, well, maybe not all of them, but many of them. Among stubborn beings, there are the particularly stubborn. But where are they going to be? the people who listened to his advice and followed in his footsteps, many of them are going to be enjoying the results of that in heaven. And they're going to have love and appreciation, and they will know the Buddha's going to set in motion the wheel of Dhamma, and they will want to listen. They will want to rejoice. And so I'm not saying that that monk's experience was absolutely correct or not. I'm just telling you that one of the monks experienced something that seemed to be a memory, and it was an inspiring experience for that monk. And this was from where we were sitting, right over towards the edge. And so there's a beautiful museum which has some of the masterpieces from the Gupta area. My favorite Buddha statues, if anyone's interested to know, my favorite Buddha statues are from the Gupta era. The reason I like the statues from the Gupta era is the serenity and peacefulness. You can see these qualities. You can see purity. I can see purity in the face. I can see aloofness. I can see serenity. And I can also see engaging kindness. So those master artists really knew how to capture purity, aloofness, and forbearance and goodwill towards the world. I love how there's a sense of space right around his head and face, which suggests emptiness. I also love how there's a very ornate halo around that, which is very grand, which suggests all of the merits that he's cultivated and accumulated and all the qualities that he has that he can have access to when coming out of emptiness for the sake of benefiting beings. He has access to vast stores of merit and amazing qualities. So this statue, many people say, is the most beautiful in the world. I don't know if it's the most beautiful in the world, but it is. I love it a lot. These days, they actually let you take pictures. So for a long time, they would not let you take any photos, but now you can take a photo of it and pay respects. That's a nice thing about Indian museums. You can also bow whenever you want to. Nobody stops you. Yeah. This famous symbol of the Indian nation, the lion capital. This used to have a Dharma wheel on top of it, used to be on top of a large post, used to be in the site of where the Dharma wheel was taught. Very interesting piece of sculpture. Somehow it has a shiny finish on it, and this is sandstone. So normally you cannot get sandstone to become shiny. And so even this was under the ground for many centuries. When they dug it up and clean it, it has a shiny finish on it. And they don't know to this day what it is or how they did that. And that it stayed shiny under the earth for centuries is interesting. I have my own suspicions. I suspect either Deva technology or alien technology. But one of those. So Sarnath, the deer park, is, I think, 12 or 16, something like that, not very far from Benares, Kasi, Shiva's city of light. So part of our cultural study was to, when in Rome, I always go to Shiva's burning ghats. We would contemplate corpses and death and impermanence. And we also attended the arti as observers, the puja to the Hindu gods and goddesses. I think the puja is to the goddess of the Ganges and to Shiva and Rama, etc. It is really interesting. I can feel whenever I'm on the Ganges River, I can feel a gentle, feminine, soft energy. And so I do think there's a goddess, something happening there with goddesses. And the banks, on the other hand, it's kind of like yin and yang. The banks of Varanasi are really pumping with something that isn't gentle and soft and feminine. And so it's nice to start with the gentle and the soft. And interestingly enough, I've been here many, many times. And this time a corpse did float by us. And not long after this photo was taken, we did see a bloated and not very nicely smelling corpse. And the reason we could see it coming was the gases from the corpse had caused the cloth to kind of swell up like balloons. So there appeared to be these like two white balloons floating. And I'm like, oh, what's that? and it was an old man, and he may have been a religious practitioner. Like, there's 4 types of bodies that they don't burn in the Hindu tradition. It's a holy man, a pregnant woman, somebody with leprosy, a snake bite, maybe it's 5, a snake bite victim, and a child, a young child. These are, no, sorry, it is 4, I think. It's the pregnant woman, snake bite, leprosy, and holy messenger. So that was interesting to see. And the other side of Varanasi is kind of like it's considered the realm of death. And the Hindus believe that at the end of the Eon, when Shiva does his dance of destruction and the whole world goes up in flames, that Kasi, the city of life, will be spared. They believe that this is an eternal, shining city of light that, due to Shiva's blessings, will still be there. I don't believe that, but the Hindus believe that. But it's very interesting to see, just to feel people's faith and to go there and to consider their beliefs. And I think the reason the other bank, which isn't developed, is considered the realm of death is because it's the way the river is very wide here, and it's kind of going around a bend. The corpses often wash up on that bank, so they've not developed it. So it's also an interesting thing. It's like this very prime real estate that doesn't get developed. And but when you study the Jataka stories, so many of the Jataka stories start with the Bodhisattva having a past life in Benares. And there are often metaphors, similes mentioned in the sutras, like Varanasi silk, the finest sandalwood from Varanasi. So it has been a city of refinement and civilization for a very long time. And there's a flame where they say they've been lighting the funeral pyres on the burning ghats for 5,000 years, and they say that flame has never gone out. And I always visit that flame. I visit that place, spread metta. If we've got any relatives in India that have been waiting for us, and do some chanting, spread metta, pop into the charnel grounds of what's it called? I think it's at the Manigati Ghat. Also, I thought, take the monks and nuns out for a bit, show them the city lights. And I took a few pictures of the locals. Flower sellers, mala sellers, tuk-tuks. Very bustling place at nighttime in the cooler weather. People go out and eat and attend the puja and then go and eat and shop. Don't know if there's a picture of the actual funeral pyre. I think I forgot to add that. But it's back there where the sun is setting. It's in this area. You can see the smoke plumes here. I think it's between 200 and 300 bodies a day burnt in this place. And one can see fresh corpses arriving and old ones being swept up, the remaining ashes, little bits of bone thrown into the river. Some recent developments. This is the Prime Minister Modi has a lot of faith. He's put a lot of effort into cleaning up Varanasi and as an important Hindu holy site. Some kind of cool, cartoony, folky art. I kind of enjoy that. A bit of color. Kind of Shiva with Nandi, Ganesha, Devanusati. Here we're having a well-earned cup of tea. They make it in these earthenware cups. You drink your tea and then you throw it on the ground. And no rubbish. Earth to earth, dust to dust. Okay, the group has arrived. Last year, in recent years, I've been dividing pilgrimages into half one year, half the next year. So last year, we went with many members of this same group. We went to Bodh Rajgir, the Bamboo Grove, Vulture's Peak, etc., and the Deer Park. And those who were able to followed to Ajanta and Ellora caves. This year we were doing part 2, which was Sravasti, where Lord Buddha spent most of the rainy seasons, 18, I believe. And then Kusinara, the site of the Mahaparinibbana, and Lumbini. So we met the group in a place called Lucknow, which is the capital city of Uttar Pradesh. And there they all are. I gave them blessed malas, blessed amulets, in trying to decrease the chance of mishap. And they gave me their in case of death letter, which is one of the requirements that I ask people. I asked them to please give me permission to have their body burnt in India rather than trying to get a bloated corpse back to Singapore, Malaysia, or Thailand, or America, if possible. But so far, nobody's died on my pilgrimages. I'm happy to report. But, just in case, cover the bases. Very nice hotel. We were able to stay in. Platinum Hotel, it was called, in Sravasti. Sravasti is many people like meditating here because it has many groups do come through, but it's more open and spacious than Bodh Gaya. So you hear the same chanting. Often in Bodh Gaya, it's all in quite a confined space, in a bit of a kind of a bunker basin, and there's a lot of clashing sounds. But here there may be a Vietnamese group 100 meters away, and a Korean group 200 meters away, and a Sri Lankan group 300, 400, 500 meters away. And so the sound of chanting in the distance adds an ambience and a sacred quality, but one can find a quietish place to just sit and contemplate. This is probably the place where Lord Buddha taught the most. And so to just sit in this place and soak up that atmosphere and to consider this is a place where Lord Buddha did his meditation every day. This is a place where Lord Buddha received kings, queens, princes, princesses, monks, nuns, wealthy people, poor people, farmers, merchants, potters. Ananda was praised as knowing the right time for all of these different times as his secretary, attendant. He knew when the Buddha would receive guests, and he liaised and coordinated so that the Buddha would be able to see all of these guests, make time for everybody, teach everybody. And so I think it's the case that millions of beings attain to Dhamma here while listening to Lord Buddha during the 18 rainy season retreats that he spent there. And if you include the Devas as well. So it's a very special place. I guess this was headquarters. And there are places, they don't have signs, but somehow even the attendants there seem to know somehow that this was Kasapa's kuti, this was Ananda's kuti, this was Sariputta's, this was Moggallana's. And you can go and pay respects to some of your favorite great disciples within the precincts of the Jetavana. You can go and chant in the site of Lord Buddha's kuti, and then you can go and pay respects inside. And a lot of people, I don't know how to explain it in terms of, I don't know how it works, but a lot of people who go in there and compose their mind and intend to pay respects to the Buddha feel that they were able to. And it becomes a very real experience of, as we know, Lord Buddha had incredible abilities, and he does say about jhana samadhi that he was a master of, that it has imponderably wonderful things that you can do if you have it that the ordinary mind can't even imagine. But I'm assuming that he put in a lot of potent blessings into this place. And so that when one goes with a mind of faith and pays respect for the mind of faith, then one can experience that blessing. I remember in the beginning of this, I did say that I would try to say things that are relevant to people who may never go on a pilgrimage and who are practicing at home. So I think it is also the case that anyone who does a lot of chanting with faith, that some of the blessings of the Buddha come wherever you are. Because Lord Buddha, he accumulated this huge amounts of merit, and merit is a thing. He attained to Nibbana without remainder, But while he was alive and in his course of cultivating his virtue, accumulating his merit, he made millions and millions and millions of prayers that his merit may benefit his following. And so it's a thing. And monks that I know who have certain abilities are able to kind of tap into the merit of the Buddhas and the Arahants and direct it in certain ways, help their disciples. And so you don't have to go. It's helpful. It just makes it real. If you can go to these places, you really make it, wow, the Buddha really did come to this world. The Buddha really did. And it just makes it really real. It kind of nourishes faith. It increases one's merit. But it is also the case that when you practice sincerely wherever you are, that some of these blessings can come to you. So I just wanted to say that as well. And that's one of the reasons the Lumpur Biek and Lumpur Nan recommend chanting the verses in praise of the Buddha in repetitions, like do it 108 times energetically with faith. Just an interesting thing to do. And you can work up to it. Maybe you do it 27 times, 4 times a day, or 27 times, 4 days in a row, get to 108, but just have a feel. Does your mind feel brighter? Does your mind feel lighter if you do some devotional practice and you chant the praises of the Buddha in repetition? Many people find that they do. You might not be able to describe it or explain it, but you can experience that when you recollect the virtue of the Buddha, the merit of the Buddha, the qualities of the Buddha sincerely, in a focused and diligent way, your own mind feels brighter, uplifted, and some kind of brightness and light, positive energy comes. And the same would be the case for the chanting paritas, the protective verses. Many Sri Lankans chant their paritas every day in their homes. So one of the things we do is that we will make a grand flower offering at the side of the Buddha's kuti. I think it was it? How many kilograms?
200 kg of marigolds and 100
kg. That's it, yes, okay. So 200 kilograms of marigolds and 100 kilograms of roses was what we offered to the Buddha's kuti in Savatthi. Very, very beautiful, fragrant puja. This is, I think, people's one of the favorite parts of the trip is to be able to just splash around this color and make these nice designs and smell these lovely fragrances. Once again, other groups who come later are able to appreciate it. So this is just now back there. This is where they say Lord Buddha's sleeping chamber was. That's where he used to sleep. And there was a different space where he used to give his formal teachings and a different space where he would receive guests. But here, this is where the Buddha lived for many years. What's that heavenly ray? I think it's solar flare on a lens is what it's called. But this was the members of the Dharma Association of Young Working Adults and a few others, many of whose members joined the pilgrimage from Singapore. These people are between the age of 25 and 35. So I think about half of the group was young people, which is good and important. One of the ways I design the pilgrimages in recent years is to have like a 9 or 10 day option and then something additional so that the working people can rush back to work, but still can come. It's one of the reasons I divided it into 2 trips as well. And then the semi-retired and work-from-home folks were able to go for additional adventures. So we would read from the life of the Buddha in the evenings and do our practice during the day. This was the site of the twin miracles, where it's said that each Buddhas will do this at one point in their life, where the Buddha will show the extent of his psychic powers. I think leaders of other sects were saying the Buddha isn't real, he's a phony, and at some point he will show. When the Bodhisattva was born and he took his 7 steps and he raised his hand, I am the foremost in the world. and he lowered the other hand and said, "This is my last birth." At a certain point, it's like walking the talk, showing everyone, I'm not making this up. I really am. So only a Buddha can radiate fire from one side of his body while radiating water from the other side of his body at the same time. So this is a certain kind of mastery of the arupa jhanas that gives one mastery over the elements. Any of you can do this if you want to, so long as you're willing to invest billions and billions and billions of lives. You too will be able to do this. But apparently Buddha's, another thing he did was he emanated 100 bodies, each looking like him. He also caused a mango tree to grow from a mango seed into a full tree right in front of everyone's eyes. And he says, when I said I was foremost in the world, I wasn't messing around. He says of the psychic powers that these kind of things are not what impresses him. This is not what he praises. It's a consequence of all of that mental cultivation. It's just one of the things that he can do. The psychic power that he had the most respect for was the psychic power of teaching, knowing the characters and the appropriate teaching to give to individuals in different circumstances to incline their minds towards liberation. That's the psychic power the Buddha had the most respect for. At the same time, he could definitely fly through the sky and walk on water and swim in earth and all of that stuff. So there was one occasion when Lord Buddha, after he had announced that he was going to attain parinibbana, they were on a riverbank. Who was on a riverbank with his large following, and then all of a sudden he and his large following were on the other side of the riverbank. So there were occasions where he did, come on guys, it's a long walk, let's just he didn't take them all the way to the where he was going, Kusinara, but he did get them on the other side of the riverbank. And it'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it? You're walking with the Buddha and then all of a sudden, oh, you're on the other side of the river. It's the site of the Mahaparinibbana. What is Parinibbana? What is Maha? The great Nibbana. This is where Lord Buddha attained to Nibbana without remainder. So even though he's established his mind in liberation since 45 years earlier, attaining the Dhamma Eye, purified mind under the Bodhi tree, he said of his experience of old age that it was only when he was delighting in the shunyata vihara, the voidness, emptiness, experience of emptiness, that his body wasn't full of pains. And so at the end of his life, after fulfilling his duty, his goal to establish bhikkhu, bhikkhuni orders and lay people, practitioners, that he was finally able to put down the body and everything associated with it, perceptions, sixth sense, sense consciousnesses, and all these things, and attain to cessation of every type of suffering and experience unshakable peace. He describes his own attainment as having realized the deathless, the amata. So we shouldn't consider when we go here that the Buddha died. This is the place where the Buddha's body died. This is a place where the Buddha put down his last body and his mind was released into Nibbana without remainder. And, again, I had a very interesting experience here. I was sitting mid-afternoon when we arrived, and it's not very well ventilated, and people are having bare feet, and there's a pretty strong foot odor smell accumulates as the day warms up, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pilgrims. So of course, I had my rose and sandalwood fragrance puja ready, and I did go around the Buddha statue 3 times making my fragrance puja, in large part to show my love and respect to the Buddha, and in small part to try to balance some of that smell. And but it was a fool's errand, the foot smell one. But I was sitting there and I was thinking, I've had really peaceful sits here, but I don't think that's going to happen this time. Oh, that's okay. So I picked up my mala and I recited a mantra. I started to recite a mantra. Nibbanang paramang sukhang. Nibbanang paramang sukhang. Sukhang. Nibbana is the foremost happiness, the highest happiness. And my mind did go into a very peaceful, I would say probably the most peaceful meditation I had this lifetime. And it's just really interesting because it's like moments before there's a awareness of unpleasant smells and not liking it. There's an expectation or dropping of expectations, and I think this is a factor. Dropping of expectations, it's not going, okay, nothing's going to happen, and that's fine. But then inclining the mind to an appropriate meditation object. And there's a few things. There's a few things that were factors here. I think the month's previous practice, the merit of leading a large group on pilgrimage, and also the blessings of the place, because Lord Buddha attained Nibbana without remainder here. And as Tanaja mentioned, also the Devas spreading metta and many things, offering their mudita. So that was nice for the leader of the group. And it was really interesting because I would have thought that while leading a group of 70 people, that I basically thought at this point in the pilgrimage, I wouldn't be experiencing any peaceful states. And then I had the most peaceful experience of my life. So that was pretty cool. It was very cool, actually. And many people had peaceful sits in Kusinara. We offered a robe. Is there the next picture? The next one. So this is Lek dealing with the flower sellers to get us some flowers to offer. So this is what it's really like. Everybody hassling her, try to make her pay more. If you go back to the previous picture, I went over there and took a picture of them. I told them to smile. I wanted to make it look like they were offering her flowers. Smile, Kunlek, smile. You have to entertain yourselves and have a sense of humor sometimes because it gets a bit grim in moments. But Kunlek is a superstar. She takes it all in her stride and gets good prices and offers us the flowers so we don't have to deal with it. Also, not far from the site of the Mahaparinibbana is the site where the remains were cremated and the relics arose from that occasion. And Buddha relics are a very interesting thing. I've personally noticed that whenever I meditate in a place that has bona fide Buddha relics, that the mind becomes very peaceful. So the earth element of the Buddha's body seems to be able to retain a certain amount of the purity and merit that the Buddha had experienced and accumulated. So another special place. And a very old Buddha statue in the area. This is the Thai temple. It's very interesting. When you walk through the gates of the Thai temple in Kushanara, you are instantly in Thailand. And it's clean and the people are gentle and it's quiet. And there were some relics in here. So apparently Alexander Cunningham, this British archaeologist, had discovered some relics and while excavating in a chedi, and he had offered them to the Thai king at the time, Rama V, thinking that Thailand is still a Buddhist country and they will know how to take care of relics, which I would suggest for an Englishman of that century is quite thoughtful. So I heard it speculated that Alexander Cunningham may have been the reincarnation of the pilgrim Suansang, who had walked from China to bring and to get statues and scriptures and sutras and things to take back to China. And because Alexander Cunningham was using his translated diaries to rediscover the holy sites. And I think there's something to this, because you consider this guy that's an officer in the British Army, and there he is replanting the Bodhi tree at the site of the Enlightenment. And there he is gifting relics to the King of Siam. I would suggest that this is no ordinary archaeologist. I would suggest that this is a sincere Buddhist practitioner, protector of the faith, doing what they do, opening up the pilgrimage routes and clearing the path for pilgrims to come. He's a very interesting fellow. And so the previous Thai king, Rama IX, decided to send these relics back to India so that people who go on pilgrimage could pay respects to them. So we did pay respects to them. We also made an offering there in the process of raising funds to build a hospital in the local area. So we met with the Thai monks and we made an offering to support the construction of the hospital. After this, we went to Lumbini. We had an interesting experience at the Lumbini border, 4-hour wait. For reasons that none of us understand, the Ministry of Tourism in Nepal does not consider that they should employ more immigration clerks. So they have 3 immigration clerks and a queue of 400 people, and they make people stand in the dust and the heat with no seats and no water, no coffee shop. And sometimes people have to wait up till 7 hours. And it's very strange. I don't think it's something that can be understood. Suffice to say, because it wouldn't be that difficult to fix, employ 2 more clerks 6 months a year, it's the problem solved. But for whatever reason, they don't do that. And I just think it's, when you're making a lot of merit, you have to expect some suffering. So one tries to practice patient endurance with it. And we were fortunate, apparently, because our group only had to wait 4 hours. Some groups wait 7 hours. Good news is there is now an airport in Lumbini, and there's 2 flights a week during pilgrimage season. You can fly directly from Bangkok to Lumbini on Air Asia. So that might be what we do if there is a next time. The site of the birth of the Prince Siddhartha in Lumbini Grove. Very interesting. When you come into Nepal, once you pass that border, it has a more gentle vibe than India, and probably largely because there's just many, many less people, but also the nature of these mountain-dwelling people. They're quite gentle. And a lovely walk into the Maya Mahagotami Vihara. So inside here, they won't let you take photographs, but inside here is the site where the Bodhisattva was born. Took his 7 steps, announced to the world that he was received by Indra and Brahma, bathed by the 4 kings, I believe, announced that it was his last birth and that he was foremost in the world. So there is a very joyful feeling here. I think of this accumulated merit, vast. It's said that light shone through the world system when the Bodhisattva was born here. And lots of smiling faces as we walk in to do our pujas. This is one of the sites of the original, how many chetties was it that divided up? Was it 8? I think after the Buddha's Mahaparinibbana, the relics were divided into 8 portions, if I remember correctly. And this site, apparently, they have not yet been removed. King Asoka removed the chetties from the relics from those chetties and made many, many more chetties and sent relics all around the world. So there's one in Wutaisan in China. There's one in Pratat Phnom in Thailand. There's one in Kandy in Sri Lanka. There's one in Beijing. So relics ended up all over the place. But apparently there was a Naga king that told the people in the time of King Asoka that this was the relics that the Nagas pay respects to and that you can't have it. So apparently the original relics from the 8 original portions are in this place. I've forgotten the name of it, but it's about a 1-hour drive from Lumbini. Ram Kam, Meiji Ying tells me, Ram Kam. So this was a late night Dharma discussion, questions and answers with the group that had to go back from Lumbini. And certain stories the Ajahn can tell, which are much more fun when he's not being recorded. So see those smiling faces. People enjoy Lumpur's stories, late night stories. So there are many beautiful international temples around Lumbini. This is one made by Choki Nyima Rinpoche from the Nyingma tradition. He's a Dzogchen master, recently completed. They were very kind. They allowed us to meditate and chant in their newly finished hall. Beautiful murals. I think there's 1,000 gold-plated Buddhas on the back wall. Yeah. This is a very interesting place. This is called the locals call it the German temple, because apparently one wealthy German person sponsored this, but it seems to be in the style of Bhutan. Very, very beautiful murals in the dome of the Chedi. Yeah. So we in the afternoon, we would wander around and meditate in a few of the temples of other traditions. This was the Chinese temple. This was the Korean temple. Do some chanting, some meditation, and then jump in the tuk-tuks and go to another temple. It's like the spiritual version of a pub crawl. See, I've been a monk for 28 years, but there's still a little bit of Australian left in me. So this was, I believe, a Kaju temple. We had a lovely sit-in here, and unfortunately we couldn't take pictures of the murals, but very nice place. So from here, the group that remained, we flew to Pokhara, and we jumped on a bus. This was the reward part. This is for like the days of dust and bus drives and heat and mosquitoes and noise. This is where we had a little reward. I felt, because if you go to Lumbini, you don't really feel you've been to Nepal. It's flat. And Lord Buddha does describe his Kapilavatthu, where he went forth, as being in the foothills of the Himalayas. So I thought it would be nice for our group to actually come and be able to see the Himalayas. This is the Annapurna Ranges. Fishtail Mountain is this one over here, I think. Fish fin or fishtail. And so this was just go back there, JC. This was the view pre-dawn of the snow-capped. Apparently the snow, because it was summer, the snow begins at 5,000 meters. And if I remember correctly, 8 out of 14 mountains in the world that are taller than 8,000 meters are in Nepal. And so it's pretty nice to have this lovely sense of space and vista and sky, a cool weather, less dust. And the next picture, just after sunrise, it's beautiful, beautiful Himalayas. Remember, the Bodhisattva had a dream on the eve before his enlightenment, where he placed his head on the Himalayan ranges and his right hand in the ocean and left hand in the ocean, and his feet at the bottom of the Indian subcontinent, and where his teachings were going to prosper. So the elevation here was, I'm trying to remember, was it 1,400 meters, I think, from where we were. I think Pokhara is 1,400, and I think at the top of this mountain was about 2,000, but the snow begins at 5,000. There is a stupa here, the Santi Stupa. So we went on a little pilgrimage and did our evening chanting, evening sit at the Santi Stupa, built by the Nisha and Zen Japanese people, Japanese sect. And also Pokhara has a lake, the result of making a dam. And one of the things one does is one goes on the lake of Pokhara. So just a little bit of relaxing. After Pokhara, we flew. So flying, we flew on Buddha Air from Lumbini to Pokhara is half an hour. And we flew once again on Buddha Air from Pokhara to Kathmandu. And then we went to, actually the first thing we did was we went to Swayambhunath, which is a famous stupa. And then we were staying very close to Buddhanath Temple Stupa. So Kathmandu Valley has 3 cities, Lalitpur, Bhaktapur, and Kathmandu proper. Buddha is in Kathmandu, and but it's where the Tibetan refugees live. But it has been a Tibetan pilgrimage site and pilgrimage site to Nepali Buddhists for a very long time. It is believed to contain a relic of the previous Buddha. And so early in the morning, the Tibetans go and do their circumambulations, and it's a beautiful place. It's like you can do Jongkrom, walking meditation, but you do it in a large circle, and you can do your favorite meditation or recite some mantras, enjoy the atmosphere as the sun comes up. So we were able to go and meditate there in the mornings. This was from my sitting spot. I took a picture pre-dawn, during dawn, and after dawn as a memento. We visited Session Monastery, and basically we were studying and practicing Theravada, but my feeling is when you have the chance to meet good Buddhist practitioners in other traditions, you should. It's a good thing to pay respects. It's a good thing to be willing to study a little bit, understand one another a bit more. And so the abbot was very kind to us, allowed us to meditate in a very special shrine room next to the relics of one of their masters. And once again, we made a donation because this place has a monastery, a nunnery, and a retreat facility. So we made a donation to support them. And he shouted us all a cappuccino and a piece of cake from the monastery coffee shop, which is very sweet of him. Terrible with names, but I met the other Western monk who's a little more senior to me. I think he was 30 or 32 years as a monk. I met him in Tahir's Mala shop in Mumtaz Guest House. And so he was able to liaise our meeting with the abbot. And, then in the afternoon, we went to Kopan Monastery. Kopan Monastery was founded by Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa, who were refugees from Tibet. I personally feel some gratitude to Lama Yeshe because I read a book of his many years ago, and he explained one meditation technique. And when I did that meditation technique, I got some very good results. And so I've always felt very grateful. So we went there, and many years ago, I went and I had a question I wanted to ask, and the abbot there, who was known as Ken Rinpoche. Some nun friends of mine told me not to bother paying respects to him because he was fierce and rude. And so anyway, I went there and I meditated, and then after I finished my meditation, when I came out of the meditation hall, the abbot was standing there alone, and I fell to my knees and I made some offerings to him, and he said, what's your question? And then I was able to ask my question, and he answered it. So I felt grateful to him as well. And years ago, I went back. His answer to that question was helpful at that time. And I went back after he had passed away, and his body had left quite remarkable relics, like tongue relic, bone relics, hair relics, blood relics, just lots and lots and lots of relics. And so the relics are the result of a person having very powerful and pure meditation. So they were very kind. They allowed our group to go in and pay respects to those relics. And they also allowed us to pay respects to the body of Lama Zopa, who was a very important monk in modern Tibetan Buddhism. So a bit of just doing Buddhist things, the Buddhist things that were available to do in Kathmandu Valley, and keeping on accumulating merits, keeping on paying our respects, keeping up a bit of devotional practice. And it's a bit difficult to find the opportunity to give Dharma talks in Kathmandu Valley. I gave one Dharma talk in the middle of a lobby. Well, there was a kind of a wedding in a garden outside. It was a very nice lobby with beautiful chedis and things in it. And then I think on the final night, I actually had to give the Dharma talk in what was a nightclub or pub. We did some chanting, but that was the available empty room. It's kind of like subterranean, kind of dark, somewhat sleazy feeling place, but in an otherwise very nice hotel. And we did some chanting to clear the vibes, and then we had our Dhamma talk there. But beautiful, beautiful Buddhist art in the Kathmandu Valley. And so one can do Devanusati quite easily. This is Avalokiteshvara. Just before was Manjushri. There's this copperwork statues with gold plate. So one of the reasons if we can do pilgrimage, it's good because it's an outer journey that supports the inner journey. It's like making the effort to recollect the Buddha was real. His teachings are real. They're very valuable, showing our respect, showing our gratitude, studying the things that occurred in those places, accumulating merit that supports us. So if we are able to do it, it's a good thing. If we're not able to do it, at home, you can study the life of the Buddha. You can recollect your favorite suttas. You can chant the praises to the Buddha. You can do your devotional practices at home. You can do your study at home. And as I was saying earlier, I really believe that some of the blessings of the Buddha, which due to the power of his prayer and immense accumulations, he made these prayers that these blessings would support his followers. I really believe it's possible for you to experience some of the brightness and light that comes from doing devotional practices and chanting parittas, and contemplating the life of the Buddha. One of the people who was listening to one of my Dhamma talks said that she saw the group. I think it's one of these things. Should I say it? Shouldn't I say it? I'm just, like I said, if it helps you, good. If it doesn't help you, never mind. But one of the people in the group, when I was talking about Mahakassapa coming and setting the corpse of the Buddha, the body of the Buddha, ablaze, she said she saw Mahakassapa's blessings behind me and kind of shining through me while I was talking about him. So I can't say that I saw that, but I can say that sometimes when I was giving the Dhamma talks that I did feel energetic uplift and brightness, even though I had been unwell. So some of these great disciples, the Mahasawakas, they also made these vows and prayers that those who recollect them, their merit will support them to some degree. So I just mentioned that. One of the reasons I mention these things, I'll also say it while I'm being transparent, is some people think one should never mention these things ever. And then I think there's some dangers to that. There's some dangers to mentioning these things too much, but there's some dangers to not mentioning them, because if modern practitioners who come to this training only ever hear stories from very senior and old monks talking about things they experienced 50 and 60 years ago, we're reading things that occurred 2,500 years ago, one may have the sense that this is all stuff of the past. This doesn't happen anymore. And so one of the reasons I feel that it's appropriate to share a little bit of this aspect of experience without making it a personal thing. Like I was saying, you notice that I say one of the people listening on this occasion saw this, or one of the monks had this memory, not trying to make impressive personalities out of special experiences, but trying to share with you that for those who practice sincerely in this day and age, such things are possible. There are people that occasionally glimpse their past lives. There are people that occasionally see devas. There are people that see blessings streaming from the parallel realms. And so I share that content in some measure on some occasion, in the hope that it may be encouraging to some of you. And I've been yakking for quite a while now, so I think I better wrap this up. And there are many more pictures, JC. I think we're close to the end, are we? The beautiful museum in Patan. So just scroll through. Yes, we went to Patan, which is where a lot of the Buddhists in the Kathmandu Valley reside. This was the site of a palace. In Lalitpur means the city of artisans. So we went to the city of artisans and appreciated the handicrafts. Beautiful sculpture in the museum. The old palace is now the museum of Patan. So this is, I believe, a Garuda in devotion to the king, who they believe was an incarnation of Vishnu. So there's a fusion of Hindu and Buddhist cultures living together. There you have Hanuman. And we also went to Bhaktapur, which is a Hindu town of the city of the devotees. And we made an offering to the Buddhist monastery there. Yes, there's a terracotta temple with thousands of Buddhas in Mahabodha, is called. So just doing what Buddhists do, you know, those with faith. If there's a holy Buddhist thing to pay respects to, we pay respects to it. We chant, we meditate, we dedicate merit, and support the locals if we're able to, doing good things. So we visited a monastery with many novices in Bhaktapur, and we visited this was the Dhamma talk in the hotel lobby, and we visited an orphanage for disabled people, and so Ajahn Max has an eye for portraits. He's the one that would tell me, Ajahn, sit here. The light's really nice. Ajahn, sit here. It's framed really nice. So that picture just now in the was actually crawling with tourists just meters away, but he said he could see that it would be a nice picture, so he get me to sit in these places. This is Bhaktapur. Nice painting. Some of the novices. Okay, that's the last one, I believe. So I hope that something I have shared may be of encouragement or some use to you. And in your spiritual practice, the inner and outer journey, may you receive every support. May your insight, may your mindfulness grow steadily and your insight blossom. May you have experienced great peace and progress steadily towards liberation.